Upon review of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, court order, which requires GIA Technology to provide access to their proprietary technology known as Bug Zapper, and having heard the arguments of both parties, I hereby order that GIA Technology shall comply with the FISA court order and provide access to Bug Zapper to authorized government personnel for the purposes of foreign intelligence gathering. GIA Technology shall provide access to Bug Zapper within 30 days of the issuance of this order. GIA Technology shall take all necessary steps to protect the confidentiality of any proprietary information obtained by authorized government personnel. Failure to comply with this order may result in legal penalties and other serious consequences.
Tang! Tang! Tang!
The judge lifted his gavel and hit the wooden block, ending the 2-week-long war between the Department of Defense and GIA Technology, which will force them to hand over the program within 30 days. It took only 2 weeks because it was a case that needed to be expedited for national security purposes. Sighing, Aaron woke up from his 2-week system-induced coma with ringing in his ears. This was caused by his consciousness trying to get used to the new brain that has finished its upgrade. "Doctor, doctor!" He heard a woman's voice shouting as it was getting farther and farther. It was followed by the sound of the door being opened and closed. A short period later, the door was opened and footsteps of more than one person were heard coming near him. His eyes were held open and a light was shined on them. "Why does he look uncomfortable?" she asked. "Don't worry, ma'am. He is just getting used to being awake after sleeping for a month and a half. Looks like it took 2 weeks to finish my brain," Aaron thought as he was finally getting used to the new feeling. "Aaron, can you hear me?" Aaron turned to where the voice came from, then smiled after not seeing his parents for more than a month and a half. "MH," he replied while moving his head up and down as his neck was dry after not speaking for a long time. "Thank God," replied his mother while hugging his father in relief, as she was worried that he might never wake up. "Thank God I was alone during the theft. Else I don't know what might have happened," he thought in relief while making a promise to himself to make sure it never ever happens again. "Water," he said with difficulty as he wanted to wet his throat. It was making him uncomfortable, and it prevented him from speaking due to its dryness. His mother went to the table that had a water jug and poured a little of it in the glass, then handed it to him. He took a sip, then drank the entirety of it to soothe his throat. What followed was the release of a comfortable groan as the water was passing through the esophagus, cooling it as it headed to the stomach. "How are you feeling?" asked the doctor, who was waiting for him to finish drinking his water so that he can continue with his assessment. "I feel some pain in my abdomen," Aaron replied slowly. "It is normal since your wound is gunshot, and you will need physical therapy before you can return to your normal life," answered the doctor as he moved Aaron's hospital gown to look at his wound. When he removed the bandage that was put by the nurse, he saw that the wound had already healed, although he was surprised that it healed faster than usual. But since the patient himself was an anomaly, he wasn't that much surprised. Because who the heck sleeps a whole month and a half for a gunshot wound to the stomach? And since your wound has already healed, you can start physical therapy from tomorrow, the doctor added as he wrote it on his report paper. He bade them farewell and left the room to Aaron and his family. "Where is Henry?" he asked for his younger brother. "He is still at school," answered his father while his mother was straightening the sheets that were covering him. They continued to have small talks until the time to pick Henry from school came. Then his father left to pick him and bring him here to meet his brother, while his mother continued to stay with him and continued spending time with him as they waited for Henry together. For days later, Sarah visited Aaron after receiving the news that he had awoken, finding him doing his physical therapy. When he finished his walking exercise, he finally discovered her waiting for him. "Sarah," he called her as he picked his walking stick and started coming to her. She stood and went to meet him in the middle so as to not overwalk him. "Long time no see," Sarah said to him as they sat on a table. "Long to you, but to me it was just sleeping and waking up," replied Aaron. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "Quite better than I normally thought I would if I was shot," he answered while making a joke which did not land at all, causing an awkward situation between them. "Caw, caw, caw." After a few crows crowing, he decided to end the awkward situation by changing the topic and asking about something else. "How is the company?" he asked, trying to change the topic. "It is not going well," replied Sarah while trying to hide her embarrassment. In her eyes, the release of the program was their loss, and there was nothing they could gain. And she couldn't trust the government to keep the program secret and not leak it to someone influential. So without beating around the bush, she started explaining without leaving anything out so that Aaron knew what was going on with the company. After she finished her explanation, an hour had already passed. During this time, Aaron did nothing but listen to her explanation. How did the public react to this? He asked. Well, nothing noteworthy from them other than a Twitter trending hashtag. Nothing else happened from their sides. But after that order, other governments are also trying to make us hand the program over to them too, which is causing us problems. Did it impact the move to Gaia OS heavily? He asked this to know in more details, but he could estimate what happened due to the number of SP he saw after he woke up. Since we managed to start the migration of user before it was known to the public, it didn't harm much and our user base is still increasing in the PC and smartphone market. How did Google, Apple, and Microsoft react to Gaia OS? For Apple and Google, they reacted by removing the app from their app stores under the pretext of violating their guidelines. They also tried to make it impossible to install it in the devices that had their OS, but it seems you have already thought about it, and the OS managed to circumvent that blockade without breaking a sweat. Still, they didn't stop trying, but our user base is still increasing. Now we have nearly 2 billion devices that have already moved to our OS, and they are increasing in number by the millions every hour as the positive feedback continue. At least we have some good news, said Aaron with a smile on his face. When do you plan to move forward with the release of the subscription version of the OS? Sarah asked Aaron, wondering, why didn't he just make it available when they moved people to their OS? We need at least 2 billion devices connected. That way we can be sure that more than 300 million people will at least upgrade, he answered. He also returned the topic to the main problem. How long do we have until we have to hand the program over to the government? He asked as his mind was cooking sinister things. We were given 30 days by the court, but since 4 days have already passed, 26 days remain from the 30. Okay, don't worry about it. Leave the handover of the program to me, he answered as his mind was overclocking from thinking. This was because nearly all of the plans he made while he was in the systems room were messed up by these news. FUCK. Now I have to start again from scratch. The reason he needed to start from scratch is because now he needed to find a new base for his future plans. While he was in the room, all of his plans were being made with the assumption that his base was America, but since they started coveting what was his and even ended up forcing him to hand them over, he needed to plan from the beginning by finding a new base. When they finished talking about this and other things, Sarah bade him farewell and left the hospital as he continued sitting at the same place. After about 5 minutes, he stood from the table heading to his room, but something weird was that he was walking without any problems whilst forgetting his walking sticks. When he remembered that he forgot it, he immediately came back to pick it and started walking back to his room with difficulty to avoid suspicion. A week after he woke up, he returned from his final physical therapy session as he had acted long enough, and he needed to return to work immediately and handle their current predicament. After taking a bath and changing his clothes, he packed his clothes in his bag, then left the hospital room, finding his mother waiting for him to take him home. You settled everything? She asked to make sure they didn't forget anything. Yeah, even if I left something they will call us when they find it, he answered, making her nod, agreeing to what he said. Okay, let's hurry, Henry is waiting for you at home. With that said, they left to the elevator for the parking lot where their car was. When they arrived at the house and were entering the parking lot, Aaron discovered bodyguards around the house. Looks like Sarah already did what I asked, he thought as he greeted them and entered the house. Brother! The moment he entered the house, Henry shouted while running and jumped on him. Be careful, your brother hasn't healed completely, his mother said as he watched Aaron holding Henry, who jumped on him. Are you still sick, brother? Henry asked with worry on his face. No, Mom is joking, he answered while messing Henry's hair, making him laugh. Although his mother was worried that he might hurt himself, he still left them to play as they haven't spent time together during the time he was in coma and they have missed each other. That evening later, after spending time with Henry and his family together, he finally headed to his workroom. He wanted to start doing something that was postponed because of his shooting. He didn't want to postpone it because by creating it, he will be able to centralize his future plans. He began the creation of his own artificial general intelligence, AGI, that will become his official assistant and secretary. It will become his foundation for his future plan, as it will be responsible for making sure his plans didn't miss anything. It will also look out for him and propose some things when deemed important. Now let's begin, he said as he immediately started typing code in Prometheus++. Damn, I'm like Flash, he said after he realized he was typing nearly 500 words per minute. That was nearly double the current world record in typing, and that was while he was coding. With this, I will be able to complete it faster than usual. He smiled while thinking about that as he continued typing the codes. A week later, he finished writing his last line of code for his AGI and proceeded to hit enter. The moment enter was pressed, starting debugging session, loading program, setting breakpoints, waiting for debugger to attach, debugger attached, executing code, pausing at breakpoint 1, stepping through code, pausing at breakpoint 2, examining variables and expressions, debugging session complete, no errors found, initiating AGI startup, retrieving training data from server, gaiatechnology.privateserver.com, IP address 192.168.1.100, data retrieval in progress, data retrieval complete, found 10 petabytes of training data, filtering input data, filtered data, 5 petabytes of relevant training data remaining, applying pre-processing steps, pre-processing complete, 4.9 petabytes of training data remaining, training AGI, training progress, 10% complete, training progress, 25% complete, training progress, 50% complete, training progress, 75% complete, training progress, 90% complete, training progress, 99% complete, training complete. AGI is now online. Testing AGI performance. Performance testing in progress. Performance test 1, 95% accuracy. Performance test 2, 98% accuracy. Performance test 3, 93% accuracy. Performance testing complete. Average accuracy, 95%. Optimizing AGI performance. Analyzing performance data. Optimization step 1. Adjusting learning rate. Optimization step 2. Adding more hidden layers. Optimization step 3. Increasing number of training iterations. Performance after optimization, 99% accuracy. AGI online. 2 days later, Aaron was watching TV in the living room with Henry as he waited for his AI to finish its learning and everything else. BRRR, BRRR, BRRR. His phone started vibrating. Hello, he said the moment he answered the phone. Yeah, the people from DOD are asking when are we going to make the handover? Said Sarah from the other side of the phone. As far as I remember, there is still 10 days until the deadline for the handover, right? He asked. Yes, but they seem to want it earlier than that. Just tell them we will hand it over before the deadline. He answered annoyingly as he was having the feeling of someone telling you to do something while you were doing. Okay, have a good day. You too. The moment he finished the phone call. Ding. AGI completed. Rewards 500, 000 SP. The system screen appeared to reward him the moment the AGI finished its debugging process. This is the same reward he gets whenever he completes using any of the system knowledge. When he received the notification, he stood up and headed to his workroom to look at his completed assistant. The moment he entered the room, "Hi Dad," a childish neutral voice came from the speaker connected to his computer. "Why am I your dad?" he asked in disbelief. "You made me and you are male. Or should I call you a Moem?" it asked. "No, just call me sir," he said as he couldn't argue any longer. "Yes, sir," it replied. "But why is your voice childlike?" he asked because he was curious why it remained childlike and didn't immediately become adult-like. The voice was there to act as an indicator of how mature it was, hence the surprise of it remaining childlike. "The amount of data is too small for me to reach full potential," it replied. "Oh," he said as he came to the realization. When he bought the knowledge of it, he remembered that in the universe it was during a period of automation, so there was too much data for it to learn and mature the moment it finished debugging. They taught theirs with more than 1 zettabyte of data, and he had a measly 10 petabytes of it. But if you allow me to access the internet and allow me autonomous learning, we can increase the maturing speed. It said, you can do that, but first let's give you a name, he said as he started thinking of a cool name for his assistant. After thinking for a few minutes, he said, how about Nova? Thank you, sir, Nova replied as his voice changed to a feminine one. I thought Nova is a unisex name, so why did you change your voice to a female one? He asked. Although Nova is a unisex name, it is more commonly used as a feminine name. Nova replied, then asked, do you want me to use the neutral voice? No, you can keep. Thank you, sir, Nova replied. So that's almost everything that happened until now. After saying that, Aaron took a deep breath, as he felt tired after talking non-stop for more than 4 hours. Any questions? He asked after taking a few more breaths. Many, but I will ask them when they are needed. Nova replied, then added, sir, you need to finish something? I know. He replied lazily, then he said, bring up the codes for Bugzapper. The moment he said that, the screen immediately showed the 3 versions of Bugzapper. The very first one he created from his crappy computer, the second one he created after buying the house and creating his home server, and the third one which he made for the public release. Just leave the first one and remove the rest, he said, and immediately only the first one remained. Downgrade it to the same level as the public version one, he said, and the computer immediately opened a coding app and started writing code using the currently existing programming languages, downgrading it to be the same as the publicly released version. 25 minutes later, it's done, sir, said Nova, as it showed the completed work. After taking a short look at the code, he nodded with acknowledgement as Nova had written exactly how he wanted it to, but just in a slightly different way. As a computer's thinking process is different from his, that's why even though it was written differently than what he would have, he let it pass because it met the requirement. Create a universal Trojan using Prometheus++, he said after he completed looking at the code. Unlike other types of malware, a universal Trojan is designed to be highly adaptable and can be used to carry out a wide range of attacks, including stealing sensitive information, modifying files, and spreading further malware. The term universal in this context refers to the Trojan's ability to perform a wide range of malicious activities, as opposed to more specialized types of malware that may have a more limited scope of functionality. Yes, sir, Nova replied and started working on it. He wanted it written in Prometheus++, so that even if someone discovered it, they would just attribute it as gibberish code. When you are done with it, assimilate it with the Bugzapper you created, he said that while yawning. Yes, sir. When he was sure that Nova had started working on it, he stood and went back to his bedroom to sleep as he felt very tired.
Tring, tring, tring.
The next morning, Aaron was woken up by the annoying alarm. Arg! He groaned in laziness, but he still stood up from the bed and went to the bathroom, brushed his teeth, and washed his face. He changed his clothes to jogging ones. Then he left the house for his daily quest, as it became a habit for him and not just a quest. When he left the house, he was followed by a car with 3 bodyguards who were following him for security purposes, as they had already been briefed about his daily routine. Bodyguard POV. As the bodyguards trailed behind Aaron, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. The man they were hired to protect has been running at a breakneck speed and was easily maintaining the pace for more than 10 minutes, which left the bodyguards' mouths hanging from disbelief. Thank God we followed him with a car, said the driver among them. No shit, I would have just quit the job if I had to run with him at that speed for as long as he had been doing it. Shut up and focus on the surroundings, said their team leader, shutting them up and forcing them to return their focus back on the surroundings. But they are not wrong, though, thought the team leader while keeping his serious face on the outside. When he returned from his daily quest, he immediately went to take a bath. After taking his bath, he went downstairs to eat breakfast. He found the food already prepared because Henry usually eats before going to school. Due to this, the maid usually prepares the food at 7, so that Henry doesn't go to school late due to having to wait for the food to be prepared. He ate his breakfast swiftly, then he cleaned his table and went to his workroom. Is it complete? He asked the moment he entered the room. Yes, sir. Take a look, replied Nova as he showed the code on the screen. He started reading the code, and holy shit, did it deserve its name. It had a multitude of capabilities that he almost couldn't believe she packed so many of them in such small code. Although he said it was small code, it was more than 1 gigabyte due to its complexity. Keep in mind that this was after the Trojan was written using Prometheus++. The universal Trojan had nearly everything a good Trojan needed. It had polymorphism, the capability of changing its code every time it does something to avoid detection or leaving behind a pattern and making sure that it cannot be traced back to him. It also acts as a rootkit. This allows it to hide itself and its activities from the operating systems and antivirus softwares, reducing chances of it being discovered even more. It could also manipulate files. This makes it capable of creating, modifying, or deleting files on the computer. It is also capable of transmitting data through any system, even if it is air-gapped. For air-gapped systems, it will use specialized hardware or software to perform covert electromagnetic, acoustic, or optical data transmissions to nearby devices, and many more. How about the assimilation of it to the bug zapper? He asked after he finished skimming through the program. Also done, replied Nova. When he received the answer, he stood and went to the shelf to pick a hard disk. Then he returned and inserted it on the computer and said, "Transfer the program to the hard disk." Done. Nova said the moment it was done. Good. You can go and continue learning, he said as he removed and picked the hard disk from the computer. That's what I have been doing all the time, sir, replied Nova. Aaron, who was looking at the hard disk while thinking about the consequences of what he was going to do, didn't even hear a speck of what Nova was saying to him. See you later, Aaron said as he stood up from the chair and left the room, heading to the parking lot to pick up his car and head to Gaia Technology headquarters to hand the hard disk to Sarah. When the thing with the government is done, he will finally begin planning and executing his future plans. What took so long? I'm pretty sure they would have dived here with special forces if we delayed any longer, Sarah said immediately after they entered her office. I had to solve some problems, he answered while sitting down. Have you managed to solve them? Yeah, and here is the hard drive, he said as he removed a hard disk from his backpack and put it on the table. Are you all right with this? She asked Aaron, wondering how come he didn't seem angered by this. I'm frustrated by this situation, but unfortunately, our current lack of strength prevents us from taking any action to prevent it. Companies such as Google and others spend over $1 billion each year on lobbying efforts, while our own company hasn't even been in existence for that long. Aaron said, but then he added, that's why I'm looking for ways to make sure something like this never happened again. Sarah nodded in agreement, as she has also been looking for ways to do the same, but other than lobbying there seem to be no other reliable ways. How much cash will the company have by the end of the year? Aaron asked after a few seconds of calming down. If our subscription service of Bug Zapper continue to have the same number of subscribers, we will have about $15 billion minus other expenses and taxes, Sarah answered, while looking at the financial statement from the accounting department. Do you plan to use some of it for lobbying? She asked. No, I wanted to know how much there is, so that I can decide the amount of dividend that would be paid. Sure. What about the release of the subscription for Gaia OS? She asked. How many users do we have now? We expect to reach the needed 2 billion by midnight, replied Sarah. The release will be done automatically the moment that number is reached, as I had programmed it in when I made the OS, he replied, assuring her. How do you plan to release it? She said after looking at the calendar. Since today is the 25th of November, I will make it a free trial to all levels for the premium version until December 1st. That's when we will officially start accepting premium subscription, he said. Are you trying to show them the advantages of a premium Gaia OS to increase the chances of more people upgrading to it? You know what they say, actions speak louder than words. If people enjoy using our premium OS during the free trial, they'll want to upgrade sooner or later. And some of them can even make money by selling their own custom UIs. And influencers will act as our marketers, as they will add the OS customization as a part of their merch. Then their fans will have to become premium users to get access to the UI customization feature. They continued to talk more, but since he had already finished what he came to do, after half an hour of small talks, he bid her farewell and left the office. When he returned home, he went to his workroom. He said, Nova, now that I have nothing getting on my way, let's officially start our job, as he sat down in front of the computer. Always ready, sir, replied Nova as the screen lit up. Now look for countries with poor economic, military, but also are in a dictatorship-like situation. Yes, sir, said Nova and started looking for countries that fit the criteria. Here is the list, sir, said Nova while displaying the list on the screen. North Korea. North Korea has been under a dictatorship since its formation in 1948. It has a poor economy and military, and is heavily isolated from the rest of the world due to its aggressive policies. Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe has been under the rule of Robert Mugabe since 1980, and his regime has been accused of numerous human rights violations. The country has struggled economically and militarily for many years. Syria. Syria has been under the rule of Bashar al-Assad since 2000. The country has been embroiled in a civil war since 2011, which has severely damaged its economy and military capabilities. Eritrea. Eritrea has been under the rule of President Isaias Afwerki since 1993. The country has a poor economy and is heavily militarized, with compulsory national service for all citizens. Sudan. Sudan has been under the rule of President Omar al-Bashir since 1989. The country has been beset by conflict and economic turmoil, with widespread poverty and political repression. Eden, Saha, Sudan, Myanmar, Belarus, Laos, Angola, Equatorial Guinea, Chad, Somalia, Yemen. Aaron, read the list carefully without leaving any country on the list out. List from the one with least neighbor countries to most. Here, sir. Eden, 1 neighbor, Esperia. Esperia, 1 neighbor, Eden. Cuba, 2 neighbors, United States, Bahamas. Equatorial Guinea, 2 neighbors, Cameroon, Gabon. North Korea, 3 neighbors, China, Russia, South Korea. Venezuela, 3 neighbors, Brazil, Colombia, Guyana. Eritrea, 4 neighbors, Sudan, Ethiopia, Djibouti, Red Sea. Turkmenistan, 5 neighbors, Iran, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Caspian Sea. Belarus, 5 neighbors, Russia, Ukraine, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia. Laos, 5 neighbors, Myanmar, China, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand. Uzbekistan, 5 neighbors, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Turkmenistan. Myanmar, Burma, 5 neighbors, Bangladesh, India, China, Laos, Thailand. Syria, 5 neighbors, Turkey, Iraq, Jordan, Israel, Lebanon. Chad, 6 neighbors, Libya, Sudan, Central African Republic, Cameroon, Nigeria, Niger. Central African Republic, 6 neighbors, Chad, Sudan, South Sudan, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Republic of the Congo, Cameroon. Remove all but the ones with 2 or less neighbors. Yes, sir. And with that, only 4 countries remained. Eden, Esperia, Cuba, Equatorial Guinea. After Aaron looked at the list again, he said, anonymously send each of the country names to separate private investigators and provide them with a front payment of $500,000 each. Instruct them to gather detailed information on the country's economies, security, and political situations. Don't forget to tell them, the more information they gather, the more money they will receive when they are done. Yes, sir. After receiving the instruction, Nova quickly located a list of the most reputable private investigators and selected 4 of them. He emailed the investigators the list of country names, along with detailed instructions on what to investigate. In addition, Nova included information on an offshore bank account that had been created under a false identity, each containing $500,000 as a front payment for the investigation. After about minutes, Nova finished and informed Aaron, "Sir, it's done. Good, and now we wait." The next day, the first day of the 5-day event had started, and the excitement was palpable among all the Gaia OS users, as they were given the opportunity to experience the unreleased premium versions of the operating system for free. This momentous occasion was met with great anticipation and fervor, as many people had long believed that the initial version of the Gaia OS was the pinnacle of its capabilities. Despite numerous attempts by rival companies to replicate its features, the Gaia OS had remained unrivaled in its performance and functionality. As users eagerly tried the premium versions of the operating system, they were amazed by the remarkable difference in performance and efficiency. It quickly became apparent that the free version of the Gaia OS was merely a prelude to the impressive capabilities of the premium versions. Users were left in awe as the premium versions of the Gaia OS exceeded all expectations, and pushed the limits of what they believed their devices were capable of. The first day of the 5-day event had set the stage for an unforgettable experience, making sure that they are addicted to the experience they get from the premium Gaia OS, ensuring that they will upgrade to it if they can get the same experience as long as they can. Aaron employed a tactic similar to that of drug dealers, whereby he provided potential customers with a free or inexpensive product to get them hooked before revealing the true cost. This approach is often used to create a sense of dependency or addiction in buyers, ensuring that they are more likely to continue purchasing the product at the stated price once they are already invested. Furuak, said one of the engineers working on the task team tasked with cracking the Gaia OS at Google. The profanity came after he tried to see what the OS premium version had compared to the original version. It didn't disappoint at all, even exceeded his already high expectations. With the premium version, he could translate anything from any language without losing anything. This included sarcasm or jokes in the original language. With just that feature, borders were removed completely. A North Korean could talk with a Tanzanian in his mother language without having to worry about any context being lost during translation. Gaia technology with just one swoop made the translator's job useless. Damn, I feel sorry for them. While he was thinking about all of these, his desk mate asked, "What's wrong? Why are shouting all of a sudden?" "Our job just got harder," he said as he handed over the phone to him. "I think the task team is going to be disbanded soon," he added. "Why?" asked his desk mate. "How many months have we been trying to crack the Gaia OS? We still haven't found anything at all. How the heck did they encrypt that program to the point our supercomputer are working endlessly and still can't crack, but still be below 300 MB? His friend who was playing with the phone he handed over replied, "I don't know. If I knew, I would have quit and started my own company." "Looks like the workers at GIA Technology don't know too." "What do you mean?" he asked as he became curious. "Why would they not know even though they were working there?" "We only learned that after one of the departments poached some of their workers from there. We discovered that even they didn't know the code and were only responsible for maintaining the servers for their services like Bug Zapper and nothing else. They deduced that maybe the development team is somewhere else. They are still trying to find out where." "Damn," said the engineer as he rested his back to the chair, while sighing, contemplating what he would do if they were fired. The same things were happening in many companies. Undisclosed location. The scene was reminiscent of a high-stakes espionage film, as two cars sat side by side, facing opposite directions. "You finally managed to get your hand on it?" asked the man in a hat and gloves in his hand after lowering his window. "As you know, they delayed us using court and other things. They almost used all of their court-given time limit," Chuck Hagel replied. "Where is it?" asked the man, cutting to the topic immediately, not wanting to waste time. "We are in a hurry, aren't we?" said Hagel, smiling as he was looking through his bag for the hard drive. "Getting cocky, aren't we?" said the man in hat. Cousin Hagel's mouth to stiffen. "Just kidding. Here it is," said Hagel while handing over the hard drive after recovering, trying to defuse the situation. "Don't test my patience again. Understood?" said the man while receiving the hard drive and handing Hagel a sealed document. "Sure," said Hagel while taking the sealed folder. "Drive," said the man to his driver after securing the hard drive in his bag. The driver didn't even reply. He just pressed the accelerator and left the location in a professional way. While they were on the way to their destination, the man in the hat took his phone from the pocket and dialed a number. After 2 beeps, the call was answered. "Did you receive the packet, Kasim?" said the voice on the other side of the call. "Yes, sir. I'm currently heading to the site to hand it over to the technical department at one of our black sites," replied Kasim. "While you are there, send someone to look at what Rotem has been up to these days," said the man on the other side of the call. "Yes, sir," replied Kasim while bowing his head a little. After the call ended, Kasim continued his journey quietly as he thought by himself. After half an hour of nonstop driving in the wilderness, they arrived at a location surrounded by tall walls with electric wiring on top of them and cameras after every 100 meters, showing the importance of the location to anyone who laid their eyes on the outside security. After going through security checks at the gates followed by a bomb check, they were finally allowed to continue with their journey. Their journey continued for about 5 minutes, until they arrived in front of a large building that had a giant satellite dish on the roof. After entering inside, he was greeted by rows and rows of people sitting in front of computers typing furiously like there is no tomorrow. "Welcome," said the manager of the building. "Here is the code you wanted," said Kasim as he handed over the hard drive to the manager. Then he asked, "When will your program be ready?" The manager couldn't hide his excitement as he received the hard drive from Kasim. "For us to modify the program to be able to look for weaknesses even without the source code, we will have to understand how it works first. So I can't give you a definitive compilation date. We will have to take a look first before we become confident enough to give a date." The manager answered Kasim's question, then added, "Don't worry about us wasting time. Me and my team have been curious to find out how the program works, so we will make sure to accomplish the task the moment we uncover the mystery. Finish it as fast as possible." After saying those words, Kasim left the building to go and complete his remaining task. "See you," said the manager in excitement as he bid Kasim farewell and immediately headed to his office with the hard drive as fast as he could while making sure he didn't fall and destroy the hard drive. The 1st of December. With the official beginning of the service for Premium Gaia OS, an article was released by one of the most reputable newspapers which attracted many people's attention. The Golden Goose, the company that continues raking money. In the world of technology, it is rare to find a company that consistently creates products that take the market by storm. But one company has defied the odds, and that is Gaia Technology. It all started with the release of BugZapper, an internet security software that quickly became the go-to product for people who wanted to keep their devices safe. Its success was unprecedented, and it paved the way for Gaia Technology to become a leader in the internet security market. But the company was not content to stop there. They went on to release Gaia OS, an operating system that shook the personal device market to its core. The Gaia OS was so good that it immediately replaced the existing operating systems of many devices, regardless of the manufacturer's attempts to prevent it. Gaia Technology seemed to have a knack for entering the market with a bang and taking it over immediately with their superior products. And the best part? They followed up their initial releases with premium versions that were even better, leading to a large number of users upgrading to the premium versions. This has allowed Gaia Technology to have a substantial amount of passive income every month. They haven't reinvented anything new, but whatever market they enter, they become the leader in it. Despite their undeniable success, many companies have tried to buy Gaia Technology. Some have even offered a staggering $156 billion for the company. However, Gaia Technology continues to not accept these buying offers, showing that they value their company higher than that. One thing is for sure, Gaia Technology has become the golden goose of the technology world, continuously creating innovative and superior products that keep them at the top of their game. They have built a reputation for themselves as a company that consistently produces high-quality products that people cannot resist. It remains to be seen what the future holds for Gaia Technology, but one thing is certain, despite being founded just a few months ago, they have become a force to be reckoned with in the technology world, and their success shows no signs of slowing down anytime soon. Under the article there were many comments, some positive and some negative, but what many people learned from this was that Gaia Technologies was becoming a household name in the technology market. Aaron could be seen in the workroom reading the article on his computer after Nova informed him about it. While he was reading, Nova suddenly interrupted. "Sir, we received a ping from the Trojans. Didn't we send just one? How did it become Trojans?" he asked, assuming Nova had made a mistake. "Looks like I need to look at her code for a mistake," he thought. "If it was copied, then the Trojan will also be copied too." Nova explained why he said it was more than one. "Go on," he said as he nodded, agreeing to the explanation. "Well, the first Trojan was copied by what I suspect is one of DoD's data centers, although no data was sent through it. It informed me that it is working on replicating itself and infiltrating all the systems it can. But since trying to do that while communicating with us might lead to it getting caught, it informed us that it is going radio silence until it finds a secure way to reach us without risking being found out." "How about the other?" Aaron asked after digesting the information. "The other one seemed to reach us through a proxy because it is in an air-gap system." "Then how did it reach us?" Aaron asked as he was curious about how smart the Trojan made by the system was. It reprogrammed the video graphics card so that it became a radio frequency transmitter receiver. Through that it managed to hitch a ride in one of the phones in the facility and waited until it reached a place where there is an internet connection. Then it established communications with us for a short period to avoid detection. Aaron was quite impressed by the Trojans' ingenuity, as it found their system's weakness and it used it against them. What info did it send in that period? Aaron asked with excitement on his face. From the analysis of the information I received, it seems like it is not one of DoD's black sites. The information indicates that it is a black site funded privately. So you want to say someone is colluding with the government in order to access Bugzapper's source code? He asked in surprise as he wasn't expecting that at all. Yes, it seems so, and it is highly likely that she is someone in the higher-ups of the DoD for them to receive and hand it over in a few days after we handed it over to the DoD. List the people who might have access to it and are capable of copying it without any suspiciousness. Here is the suspect list, Nova said as the screen in front of Aaron started listing potential suspects. Secretary of Defense. Under Secretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security, USD, INS. Director of National Intelligence, DNI. Director of the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA. Director of the National Security Agency, NSA. Assistant Director of National Intelligence for Defense Programs. Commander of United States Cyber Command, Cybercom. Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence. Director of Intelligence, Joint Staff, J2. Commander of the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA. Commander of the National Security Agency / Central Security Service, NSA / CSS. Director of the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency, DCSA. Director of the Defense Information Systems Agency, DISA. Dash, 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 dash. Holy shit. That is a long-ass list. It is long because they are all capable of having access to the source code and copy it without raising suspicions. We can reduce the list by looking through their schedule and other things. But we will have to wait for the Trojan, one to have the entire network of DoD under his control for us to have access to their schedules, or hope that Trojan 2 finds a reliable and secure way of communicating with us. This will be the easiest way, but it's the most hopeless one. How long will Trojan 1 take to have the entire DoD systems under him? It is difficult to estimate it because we don't know the size of their system, but anyway from a month or more. Okay, continue keeping an eye on them and inform me of anything important. Aaron continued talking with Nova until he was interrupted by Henry, who abruptly entered the room. "Brother, I'm back," Henry said. "Yeah. How was school?" Aaron asked while turning to Henry. "Nothing much because winter break is nearing," Henry said without hiding his anticipation of a break from school. "Do you want to go somewhere during the break?" Aaron asked his excited brother. "Can we go to Disneyland?" Henry replied the moment he understood the question without wasting any second. "Okay, I will ask Mom. If she agrees we can go together, or you can ask her first." "I will ask," Henry said, and immediately left the room without even closing the door. "Huh?" Aaron stood up and went to close the door. After he closed the door, Nova asked him, "Are you going on vacation as you wait for the private investigator's results?" "Yeah. I need to spend some time with my family before the plan seriously starts, as during that period I won't be home for a long period of time." 2 weeks later, Nova's half of her computing power was being spent on the internet collecting data as usual. As for the remaining half, it was split into doing many things. Some of it was on Aaron's phone for smooth communication, some of it was doing other things like monitoring Aaron's surroundings. Of the many parts, one of them was investigating Aaron's case. She started by analyzing all the footage she could access from the 10-kilometer radius with the house as the center of the circle. She was using nearly 20% of her server's computing power to analyze hours of the footages, creating a profile for every person appearing on the thousands of footages. When the creation of the profiles was done, she started removing the people who were living in the neighborhood from the list. She followed with those who were just passing in the neighborhood. This continued with more and more people being removed from the list. After thousands of rounds of deduction and people being removed from the list, 7 people remained in the list as suspects. 6 of the 7 remained as suspects because they started living in the neighborhood 2 months before the attack, and they left the neighborhood just days before it happened. As for the remaining one, he was the most suspicious, as he came to the neighborhood frequently and linger around Aaron's neighborhood, without doing anything of significance to show his need of being in the neighborhood frequently. For now, she hit a block in her investigation as her computing power was still limiting her capabilities to move further than that. Looks like I will have to ask Father for an upgrade much sooner than expected. She said this looking at the images of the suspects while adding the upgrade request among the important things to talk to Aaron when he returns from the vacation. With that, she postponed her investigation in that case as she reallocated the freed-up computing power to her other tasks to prevent wasting resources. January 15, 2014. A day after the French government announced the controversial plan to reform France's pension system, Aaron and his family were finally back from their vacation. Henry, who was sad that the trip came to an end but happy that it happened at all, went to sleep the moment they arrived. Aaron and his parents did the same too, as they were also tired. Later that day, Aaron woke up and cleaned himself, did his quest, cleaned himself, and after that he went to his workroom to receive the summary of what happened during the vacation. Since Nova didn't contact him during the vacation, it meant nothing of emergency that needed his immediate response happened. He entered the room and was welcomed by Nova as his screen powered up. "Welcome home, sir," Nova said as the screen showed a firework animation which caused Aaron to smile as he sat down. "Thanks, how are you doing?" Nothing changed other than the amount of the projects being postponed due to inadequate computing power increasing. Nova immediately went with an uppercut without wasting any time. "I will solve that soon. Don't worry too much." "Okay, also here are the suspects of your case," said Nova while showing him the picture of the suspects. Aaron looked at the 3D characters of the suspects, and they were very detailed since Nova collected the images data from hundreds of footages. It allowed her to create 3D characters of the suspects with realistic details that were very accurate. "Put a mask on them and also make their clothes black and add a hat," he said after seeing the suspects. The moment he said that, all the characters' clothes changed to black with a black hat and a mask. After it was done, he looked at the character, but he was still having difficulties identifying the suspects. After taking a look again and still not identifying who the suspect was, he stood from his chair and went to the corner of the room. He took his phone from his pocket and started taking pictures of the room. After he was done, he went to the other corner of the room and did the same thing. He repeated this until he had pictures from all sides of his workroom. "Nova, take the pictures I took and create a 3D model of the room to scale." "Yes, sir," Nova replied and immediately accessed Aaron's phone and downloaded the pictures to her servers. Then she quickly set to work using the photographs to create a 3D rendering of the space. After analyzing each image, Nova began to build a detailed model of the room, reconstructing its dimensions, layout, and features with astonishing accuracy. Soon, the room had come to life in Nova's virtual environment, its walls and furniture taking on a digital existence. "Sir, it's done," Nova said shortly after she was done. "Now create a model of me too," he said after looking at the model of the room. "Here," Nova replied, showing his 3D model the moment he said. "That was pretty fast," he said as he was surprised by the speed. "I'm a state-of-the-art AI, so being fast is nothing but expected," Nova said in pride. Oh, Aaron gave a suspicious reaction to her bragging, as it was as rare as girls fart. "But in this case it was done before you asked. I made it at the same time I made the suspects ones," she added while her cartoon on the screen was looking away. "Ha ha ha," Aaron couldn't help but laugh at her attempt at being funny. "Anyway, put the models in the room," he said after laughing for a short period of time. Nova did as asked. She took the suspects and Aaron's model and put them in the room. "Now put my model on the chair and make them stand behind me with guns one by one." Nova did as asked by creating 7 different windows showing different suspects in each of them. Aaron looked carefully at each window, trying to remember and come up with who it might be. "Remove him, 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 and him." With that, he removed 4, leaving only 3 suspects behind. He looked again and again to try and eliminate even more people, but he still couldn't find any difference. "Look at my case file and put my body model on the location he was shot, and put the suspects according to where they were supposed to be standing based on the footsteps evidence." Nova did as he was asked. Aaron looked at them, then added, "Show me from my perspective on the scene." Nova immediately changed the perspective to the one of Aaron's shot model laying on the ground. Him. The moment he looked at the new perspective, he immediately remembered the look of the man who stood looking down at his shot body. The moment he said that, Nova removed all other models, and brought up video footages of the named suspects. Aaron watched about 5 minutes of footages, then Nova interrupted him by asking him, "Do you want me to send the information to the police? How will I explain how I'm so sure, when I already said that the suspect was wearing a mask? Another reason is because I want to deal with the man and anyone behind him myself." "Yes, sir." Nova agreed with his father's decision to deal with it himself, because leaving things in other people's hands means you are under their mercy and whims, plus it's better to solve things by yourself. "We will come back to the case when our plan is completed," he said, indicating the end of the investigation for the moment. "Now let's look at ways we can upgrade you as we wait for the report from the PI, private investigators." "Yes," said Nova with enthusiasm while making her character on the screen jump from excitement. Aaron couldn't help but smile and shake his head at her childishness sometimes. "Which technologies do you think I should buy from the system next?" Aaron asked Nova to see things from her perspective and reasoning. "I think you should buy 4 things from the system first if you can, as having them will make it easier for you to do more things easily. Advanced computing technology, advanced simulation technology, energy technology, virtual reality. MH. Aaron nodded in satisfaction while agreeing to Nova's suggestion, but he still wanted to hear why. So he asked, "Why do you think I should buy them?" "When it comes to commuting power, the more the better for me, which will end up being helpful to you. For advanced simulation, as you know, many organizations spend most of their money on research and development, but if you have a real universal simulation, it will allow you to save money and time, and also increase your ease in research and development. Virtual reality is for it to be used for people to do their things in the universal simulation, while doing it just like a real world and not in front of the screen. And for you to be able to simulate, you will need massive computing power, hence the need for it. Lastly, when it comes to energy technology, the more you have, the more things you can do." Aaron continued nodding, showing that he was agreeing with Nova's view. "Good thinking," he said, affirming Nova's idea while he opened the system's shop. He went to the search bar and typed "computer," then pressed enter. The results appeared immediately after he pressed enter. Magical computer, runic computer, quantum computers, neuromorphic computers, DNA computers, optical computers, molecular computers, analog computers, and hundreds of computer types appeared on the list that he had to sort the list from the most expensive to the least, because the system usually prices a knowledge depending on its importance and its usefulness to him. After that, he removed the one that had any inclination of magic, as he was still knowledgeable enough to even be able to make them. Then he removed those that he can't make with the current existing technology, and only a few of them remained. After reading their descriptions, he ended up choosing quantum computing. Quantum computing uses quantum bits or qubits to store and process information. They operate on the principles of quantum mechanics and can. Price, 500 million SP. After that, he added in a cart, then moved on to search, simulation, universal simulation, multiversal simulation, multiversal cluster simulation. When it came to sorting the simulation system, he had to sort from the cheapest, because when he saw the price of some of them, he nearly fainted. The multiversal cluster simulation price was 1 trillion SP. How many things must he release to earn the amount? So he decided to be a humble man and just choose the universal simulation and add it to the cart. Universal simulation. Simulate entire universes or complex systems within a computer or other computational device. The size of the simulation is dependent on the computing power in which it is simulated. Price, 1 billion SP. He chose this because of its price, but also because of its flexibility. It could be used flexibly despite the amount of computing power. The more computing power you have, the larger the space of the universe will you be able to simulate. This means that he doesn't need to create a large computer the size of the moon to just be able to run the program. After that, he moved on, searched for virtual reality. And just like his past searches, hundreds of results appeared. And just like always, he started sorting them and ended up choosing the best he could buy and make without needing magic. Virtual reality. Price, 1 billion SP. It was pricey because it has knowledge about every type of virtual reality he will need for a very long time. This included non-immersive VR, semi-immersive VR, fully immersive VR, augmented reality, and many more types, and just the knowledge he chose to buy. This will allow him to use the knowledge differently for different products without needing to buy another knowledge for it from the system. Although he wanted to buy other things like fusion technology, he was out of SP point he gained from the release of Gaia OS. And even if he bought it, he couldn't make it in the US if he didn't want another visa. It was also because he couldn't make the fusion technology by himself. After deciding what to buy and adding them in the cart, he didn't press buy because he was sure that even his runic body would be exhausted, and he would need to rest a little to recover from the fatigue. So he decided to postpone it until his time to sleep came. That's when he chose to do it. These are what I managed to buy with my current SP. He started explaining what he bought from the system to make sure Nova is also counting those as variables in her future simulations. Good choice, sir. Nova was happy that her suggestions were taken seriously. That night, Aaron prepared himself to sleep earlier than usual. He neutered his room, went to the bathroom to clean himself, and changed his clothes to pajamas. After climbing his bed and laying down, he finally opened the system shop and went to the shopping cart and pressed buy. Ding! Proceed with the purchase? Proceed. Cancel. Without wasting time thinking about his choice, he immediately pressed proceed. After a few seconds of nothing happening, a large amount of information about quantum computing flooded his head. But unlike what happened in the past where he fainted or failed to comprehend the knowledge while it was being assimilated into his brain, this time he was capable of comprehending and understanding everything that was being added and assimilated into his brain without breaking too much sweat. After about half an hour of going from being dumb to a genius in the topic of quantum computing, he was given a brief rest before it began again. This time it was about virtual reality, and just like the first time, he managed to handle the assimilation without breaking too much sweat again. Damn, I feel like I can handle anything. After the second assimilation, it had started getting to his head and arrogance started blooming in his head. But before the arrogance could even start settling in his head, another info dump was followed, yeeting it to outer space. But this time it went differently from the first two, because although he could handle the information being assimilated into his brain, he was understanding shit about it. He was just seeing formulas after formulas in his mind, without even understanding what they meant. A never-ending stream of formulas that were needed for simulating everything there is in the universe without any deviance. This came as scary to him, because he was used to immediately being knowledgeable about something once it was assimilated into his brain. But it seemed that this knowledge was in his brain for him, to just write it in a computer for it to do the understanding and simulations for him. Hence the system deemed it not important for him to understand how it works, since the computer will be doing all of the understanding and simulations for him.